My name is Yañez-Lazcano. I'm an artist currently living and working in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the traditional homeland of the Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee, where the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present. Before diving into the piece that I've chosen for this video, I'd like to give you a little bit of background of my practice. Since about 2009, my practice has been dedicated to exploring the various factors associated with assimilation narratives, especially as they pertain to language, labor, and notions of visibility. Therefore, my practice looks at how these factors have contributed to the formation of my family's identity as it transitions from a family of immigrants to a first, second, and third generation of U.S. citizens. While the majority of my practice has been and continues to be inspired by first-hand accounts and oral histories, I more recently started to do research in linguistics and Chicanx history to further contextualize form perceptions of Mexican immigrant and Mexican American identities. These works find roots in photography, performance, sculpture, and installation, and recently have begun to sort of grapple with how the formation of my identity, given that I was raised in rural southeastern Wisconsin, manifested in instances of internalized white supremacy. When taken as a whole, I like to tell folks that my work sort of toggles between a poetic and lexical investigation and a loose historical narrative of what I find to be a common U.S. immigrant experience. Today I've chosen a piece from a small body of work titled The Labor of Language. This small series of sculptures looks closely at the role that language played in the shaping of and perception of my identity. Poder is a 20 by 24 inch neon sculpture that addresses English language hegemony within U.S. institutions via the erasure of the tilde found in my last name, Yañez. This is the second iteration of an earlier piece that explores my time in public schools, where I first encountered the friction between both the English and Spanish language. This neon sculpture was designed to be placed in a corner where two perpendicular walls meet, so as to invite the viewer, or rather encourage the viewer, to position themselves in a place where the piece is legible. Poder emphasizes the power in the presence of and the absence of the tilde and how this relates to the shaping of my ethno-racial identity. The tilde in this piece has been programmed to blink on and off at a steady rhythm, effectively moving between culture, language, time, and meaning. This particular element was set to complicate the material's relationship to notions of proper functionality, as well as time's relationship to notions of proper functionality of language within the public school institution. The physical presence of the tilde bulb, whether in the on or off position, sets to illustrate the vulnerability and tenacity this mark has in relation to language, culture, time, and personhood. Said in another way, the absence of light in the tilde during the off mode gestures at the frequency of occurrences when the tilde was not included, or rather erased, effectively transforming both the spelling and pronunciation of my last name, therefore changing my identity to fit within the standards of the English language. Whereas the presence of light gestures at my insistence at having my name spelled and spoken correctly. What does the X in Latinx art mean to me? The X in Latinx art means a few things to me. The first, of course, is the move away from the gendered nouns in the Spanish language. The second, I think, is a little bit more important, as I feel like the X represents the heterogeneity of the Latinx community. It also doesn't presuppose who's going to be in an exhibition or who the audience is going to be when they come to an exhibition. And last, I feel like it sort of also functions poetically as a marker on my life's timeline. There's the X that marks the spot on the timeline of my past, when I didn't have the language and didn't think I could understand, but certainly knew I had the capacity to understand. Then there's the X that marks the spot on the timeline of my present, where I find myself consistently working against hegemonic and heteronormative ways of thinking. And the X that forever marks the spot on the timeline that is my future, where I am reminded of all the growing, understanding, and work I have yet to do.